US flight with 119 illegal immigrants lands in Amritsar more likely today. 15 feared dead in stampede at Delhi railway station amid Mahakumbh rush. 3 more Israeli hostages freed in Gaza. Munich meet. Jaishankar and Ukraine foreign minister discusses conflict and ties. 10 days after the United States reported 104 illegal Indian immigrants in a military plane, 119 more illegal immigrants, the second batch under the current US administration, landed in Amritsar. Sources said third batch of 157 deportees is expected to land in Amritsar on a Sunday night. 15 people were feared dead in a stampede at the New Delhi railway station on Saturday evening. Officials from the fire department said distress calls about a stampede on platform 14 and 15 were first received around 9:55 p.m. 3 months after Sambal clashes, many more homes logged as crackdown still on. Almost 3 months after violent protest erupted near Shambal's Shahaji Jama Masjid over a court-ordered survey of 16th century mosque, 1,000 houses remain locked as residents have fled, ostensibly fearing arrest or retribution. Olympic medalist German shot putter reels in AI to coach Indian beginners in Hindi. The former German world champion and Olympic silver medalist shot putter popped up on their mobile screens in a minute, a half, and a long Instagram reel. Stoll was seen as sitting at an indoor athletics arena, his lips syncing to every word uttered in an unrecognizable language with captions in a foreign text and Indian flag next to it. Some of my friends called me to say my profile was hacked. I was speaking in another language. It was funny. Although Stoll was simply reaching out to one of the biggest fan bases, hundreds of wannabe shot putters across towns and villages of India. Al Qaeda operative from UP lost in Pak jail cops Munich conference. The exchange came between the backdrop of a controversial address by US President J.D. Vance at the Conference on Free Speech and Immigration, which riled many European leaders. The threat that I worry the most about US or West Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's the not any other external actor. What I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America. After CBI, now Central Vigilance seeks probe into the Siege Mahal. German shot putter reels in AI 3 months after Shambal clashes. Many homes logged as crackdown still on. Suspected suicide by Ashoka University student. Another found dead outside gate. Fake coaching center busted. 4 arrested. Doctor who accused colleague of rape says threatened to drop case. Don't fall prey to rumors. Wants GMI as ISA calls for boycott of classes or suspensions. In a boost to BJP, 3 app MCD councillors joined party. Strict probe into Sheesh Mahal, panic button installation, and liquor policy scandals. E-rickshaw driver and 6 women beggars behind heist at Sadar Bazaar. Bhagwat's 10-day Bhagwat's 10-day West Bengal visit before 26 polls, grassroots push to meet Arjikar victims' parents. Not all disputes suited for courts, mediation model for redressal CJI need to introspect whether capital punishment required after 75 years of our constitutions. The legislature and judiciary should seriously introspect whether there should be capital punishment in our criminal system and if it is proved to be a deterrent. His observation comes in the backdrop of the recent report of Project 39A, a criminal justice program at the NLU Delhi, which states that Supreme Court did not confirm a single death sentence in 2004 and 2023, while trial courts awarded 139 such verdicts. Justice Oka said there is a need to analyze how far our courts have protected the fundamental rights of fair trial and safeguards against arrest under the Constitution. He was delivering the third Ashok H. Desai Memorial Annual Lecture on the topic What Ails Our Criminal Justice System. Justice Oka, who became the Bombay High Court judge in 2003 and is presently a member of Supreme Court Collegium, said that easy measure of increasing strength of judges across courts was not being undertaken in a proper manner, but that alone would not solve the problem. Corresponding infrastructure for courts was also essential. He said, unlike Karnataka, where he served as Chief Justice, the judiciary in Maharashtra struggled to get sufficient infrastructure for district and other trial courts, and several construction for district courts took place only after orders of the Bombay High Court. Of course, to some extent, I see there is change for good. It is a very sad story that we lack basic infrastructure. In Karnataka, the situation is exactly the reverse. Whatever the court wants, the government gives, and therefore, if you go to some of the courts in Karnataka, you will find far better judicial infrastructure. Justice Oka emphasized that the well settled principles of bail is the rule, jail is an exception, should be strictly implemented even for cases in special cases such as PMLA and UEPA with some modification. He raised concern over the pendency of 5,000 bail applications in the Bombay High Court, inadequate prosecutors, and 80% of prisoners in jail across Maharashtra being under trials. India's legal aid cover includes 80% of our population, and a young workforce can help them bring the objectives of NALSA schemes to fruition. Key shift in India-Afghanistan trade since Taliban takeover in 2021, exports slump, imports surge. Fig, asafoetida, apple and saffron, major imports, trade gradually resuming with cautious optimism. India's trade equation with Afghanistan has witnessed a shift after the Taliban's return to power, with imports touching a record 642 million and exports slumping to a uh, 16-year low, creating an unusual trade deficit, reveals Ministry of Commerce data. This shift in gains significance as New Delhi has initiated its highest level contact yet with Taliban regime, and the latter too has expressed interest in strengthening political and economic ties. According to government data, before the Taliban takeover, the value of exports to Afghanistan stood at $825 million and imports $505 million. India's export fell sharply to 554 and 437 million in 22-23 and 355 million in 23-24. Conversely, imports have seen a steady increase from 509 million to 510 to 642 million in 23-24, the only exception between being 22-23. Apple imports. In the last 2 years, Afghanistan has also emerged as a major supplier to India, major Apple supplier, surpassing traditional suppliers like Italy and the US. In the last fiscal, it was the third biggest supplier of apples to India. The only two countries ahead of it were Iran and Turkey. India's exports to Afghanistan include mainly medicines, vaccines, soybean meal, and garments. In 23-24, top items India imported were agricultural produce, figs, asafoetida, raisins, apples, garlic, saffron, fennel seeds, almonds, apricots, onions, pomegranates, and walnuts. Senior diplomat and former Ambassador Jayant Prasad said India's exports do not reflect the value of items sent as humanitarian aid to Afghanistan in recent years. Now, India has unfrozen visas for businessmen from Afghanistan, therefore, trade will increase, but it will be the incremental first. Returning to prior 2001 days will take little time. It is heartening to see that saffron is coming from Afghanistan. The Afghan government has encouraged the cultivation of saffron to replace the poppy cultivation in the country. In echoes of Rahul's social justice speech, AICC rejects balances caste, pushes for OBC faces. Of 11 state in charges, 5 from OBC, 1 each from SC, ST, Muslim, and 3 from upper caste. Ridiculous Mirwais slam raids on Jammu and Kashmir bookshops with Jamaat literature. Social justice pitch for the inclusion of SCs, STs, and other backward classes and minorities in the institutions and power structures of the country. New law empowers credit firms to collect data without users' consent. RBI tells Supreme Court, says Act brought in to arrest NPAs. The RBI has defended the collection of financial data of banking users by credit rating agencies to prepare credit scores and submitted before the Supreme Court that this was precisely the purpose behind Parliament acting the Credit Information Companies Act. Says Act brought in to arrest NPS. The RBI has defended the collection of financial data of banking users by credit rating agencies to prepare credit scores and submitted before the Supreme Court that this was precisely the purpose behind parliamentary enacting the Credit Information Companies Act 2005, and companies do not need consent from borrowers for this. Defense auditor demands 10 lakh bribe from drone firm to clear 56 crore payment. 3 held. Second batch of illegal Indian immigrants lands in Amritsar. Don't make our holy city deports. Centre government should not defame Punjabis man. Haven't gone home. MP man attacked over the interfaith relationship demands protection. Darjeeling Zoo gets biobank to collect cell tissue samples. Travel advisory against Assam. A roadblock in attracting foreign investments. Himanta. Economic survey Uttarakhand's per capita income estimate higher than national average. Budget abandons the lesser gods. 1. There is a proverb in Tamil that follows if hunger strikes all 10 will fly away. The 10 are honor, clan, education, generosity, knowledge, charity, penance, effort, perseverance, desire. In modern times, the 10 and more virtues seem to vanish at the time of elections. Admitted Budget 25-26 was presented on the eve of Delhi elections and a few months before the Bihar elections. However, I have seldom seen a budget that gives away all the government can afford to give away in a year to a small number of persons in the hope that the ruling party can win the votes. This is precisely what the Honorable Finance Minister did in the budget. The FM calculated that she has or she was told she must find a treasure of 1 lakh crore to distribute. She found the money and she decided to give away or give all of it to the 3.2 crore persons who paid income tax among the population of 143 crore people. It is a minor detail that 3.2 crore income taxpayers included the middle class, rich, very rich, and the super rich, along with 10 virtues contained in Tamil proverb. Modern values of governance such as equity, social justice, and distributive fairness were thrown to the winds. As the budget exercise started, the finance minister was under pressure of the failing revenues. Ministry of Finance estimated that total receipts of the central government will fall short of the budget estimates of 24-25 about 60,000 crore. Moreover, if the FM wanted to improve the fiscal deficit of 24-25 a tad, the MOF had to find at least 43,000 crore. Together, about 1 lakh crore has to be garnered. Delhi elections were around the corner, and if giveaways were contemplated, those would require additional funds in 25-26. It is most probable that the giveaway of a cut in the income tax was decided at the highest levels of the government, which section of the taxpayers should get the benefit, or shucks, as Mr. Trump would have said, let every income taxpayer get it. Hence, the decision to raise the threshold of taxable income. Let income taxpayer get it. Hence, the decision to raise the threshold from 7 to 12 lakhs. The FM said it would cost 1 lakh crore. Once these decisions were taken, there was no option except to cut the expenditure in 24-25 to deny any kind of relief to other sections, such as the MG Narega workers, the poorest of the poor, daily wagers, non-income tax paying salaried workers, industrial workers, MSMEs, homemakers, pensioners, unemployed youth were ignored. FM took a hatchet and ruthlessly cut both capital and revenue expenditure in this and the next years from the ministries ranging from external affairs to education to rural development to social welfare to urban development. Besides the foregoing of 1 lakh crore, she simply assumed that the net tax receipts to the central government will grow at the same rate of 11%. According to PLFS, the youth employment is 10.2% and graduate unemployment is 13%. The budget documents may have 8 lines of expenditure on employment generation schemes, including 5 lines of the much touted productivity linked incentive schemes. The budget estimates for 8 lines was 28,000 crore, but for revised estimates 20,000 crore. The employment generation program is a spectacular failure. According to PLFS, monthly wages of salaried male workers has fallen from 12,000 to 11,858, and for a self-employed male worker 9,400 to 8,500. There was a similar decline for female workers too. According to the Household Consumption Survey, the monthly per capita expenditure was 4,200 to 6,900. This is the average for whole population of India. If one calculated MPCE for the bottom 15% of the population, it will be lower. The economic survey said India needed to create 78.5 lakh non-farm jobs every year till the end of 2030. India's manufacturing sector has diminished in the last 10 years from 15% of GDP to 12% in 2023. The Indian economy is not growing at a sufficient rate. As a result of government policies, a tiny fraction may become very rich and a middle class At best, 30% may lead comfortable lives. However, the government stands charged of cruelty abandoning the bottom 50% of individuals. India needs DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Of the many images of the Prime Minister's trip to Washington last week, the one that intrigued and interested me the most was him meeting Elon Musk and family. As I watched him smiling happily and handing out gifts to Musk's children, I found myself hoping that he found a moment to ask Musk a few questions about how Doge was cutting government spending. For those who may not know what the acronym means, it stands for Department of Government Efficiency. One of the first things Donald Trump did after becoming president for the second time was to put his friend in charge of his vital new department. Musk has been performing his job role so ruthlessly that hundreds of government employees have lost their jobs overnight, and government programs like USAID have been closed together. Narendra Modi has promised more than once that he wants minimum government and maximum governance, but he seems unaware of how to do this. Consequently, the government of India remains the lethargic, wasteful behemoth that it always was. When I did little research, I discovered that we taxpayers pay salaries to 48 lakh employees and pensions to 67 lakh retirees. I remember having a conversation with the chief minister once who told me that by the time salaries had been paid, there were virtually no money left to do anything else. Walk into any government office anywhere in India and you will notice that there seems to be more than 10 people doing a job that can easily be done by one person. Modi is not to blame for this, it is left over from secular socialist times when the government of India was the biggest employer in the country because the private sector has been crushed beneath the weight of quotas, licenses, corrupt regulators. When I was star-eyed Modi Bhakt in the first 2 years of Modi's first term, I kept waiting for the moment when he would start minimizing government. Not only did this never happen, but also seemed to not to have observed that there were ministries that could be closed without anyone's noticing. One relic from ancient times is the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, which was set up to control the information and broadcasting and not help it along. In that olden time when I was junior reporter, this was easy. Only broadcaster was dear Dreary Doordarshan and its sister All India Radio, which during the emergency we took to calling all Indira Radio, but today information seeps through the cracks even when there are strict internet shutdowns. India leads the democratic world in this department, and a network of very efficient spies has been created to trail social media in the search of Indians saying bad things about the Modi government. There are other things I hoped would happen in my starry-eyed bhakti days. I had hoped that Modi would discover sooner rather than later that there were ministries that could become a single ministry. Do we need agriculture and farmers' welfare and separate department of animal husbandry and dairying? This is only one example. There are at least 100 others, and the only reason why they exist is because government job continues to be the ultimate Indian dream. Private sector would be able to create millions of new jobs if officials and regulators were more sincere about making it easier to do business in India. Now, my favorite recipe for getting the government to stop wasting our money on itself, we must stop paying for ministers, bureaucrats, MPs, MLAs to live like princes at our expense. In no other democratic country, you will find that the most expensive real estate is occupied the so-called servant of the people. This alone would give the government of India enough money to make Delhi look like capital of India. The river and the city by Yamuna isn't the problem. Every time Delhi goes through the throes of yet another election, a large number of issues of great import are suddenly remembered by the contenders to the throne of the powerless Delhi. We will try to put forward a brief outline on why all this noise is based on assumptions that have no real basis in fact. We will start with the theory that Yamuna is the lifeline of Delhi. If we study the location of seven capitals of Delhi, we can easily see that Yamuna, aside from irrigating agricultural lands, has little to do with meeting drinking or other water requirements of seven capitals that came up in the land between the west bank of the Yamuna and the Ravlis. The first four, Mehrauli or Lalkot, Siri, Tughlakabad, and Jahanpana, were located far away from Yamuna, and it could not have been source of water for domestic use. The other three also relied on stepwells and wells. The largest stepwell of Delhi was inside Red Fort. The largest lawns and greenery of Purana Killa and Kotla Firosha are still fed by water drawn from their baulis. Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan's chief engineer has extended a canal built by the Firoza Tughlaq at Hisar, 134 km, to flow through the Red Fort and Chandni Chowk. The fact that Yamuna in Delhi did not flow through the heart of the city as it does in Mathura and Agra, as the Ganga does in Varanasi and Patna, does not mean that it was never the heart of the city. Yamuna flows through over the quartz rock bed in Delhi even without knowing about mica and silica that quartz rocks carry. People would have noted that those drinking this water suffered from certain ailments, so they resorted to storing and tapping rainwater. The water of Yamuna would henceforth be used primarily for irrigation, fishing rituals, and regular baths. This was the Yamuna flows over quartz rockbed in Delhi. Quartz rockbed in Delhi. The Yamuna flows over quartz rockbed in Delhi. This was continue till the British set up Chandrawal Waterworks in the late 1890s or where thereabouts. About 10 years later, sewer system was introduced and untreated sewage began to be discharged downstream of the waterworks. Thus the project to kill the Yamuna was launched. We have continued to walk on the footsteps of those pioneers. Before the launch of the scheme, each capital met its water needs through deep wells. Persian wheels were installed on many of these. They arrived in India after 13th century. Delhi was largely semi-arid and terrain was rocky, and so there would have been hundreds of step wells. More than 220 of them survive to this day. According to the revenue records and satellite data, Delhi had 1367 water bodies as per April 24 submission by the Delhi government before the Delhi High Court. Almost half of Delhi's officially listed 1367 water bodies are lost or encroached upon. Two of these streams were trapped by Iltutmish to create the Horse-e-Shamsi, and the overflow was directed through Naulakha Nalla. All we need to do is create channels that will not allow untreated wastewater from flowing into the nalas along with the bank of the nalas every half a kilometer. So we need to set up small water treatment plants where we pump the water from the nalas and the water from the channels, treat both and release them into the nalas. Clean water will begin to flow into Yamuna and soon will be clean. We don't need hundreds and millions every year, and we will not need to import technical know-how from people who do not understand the scale or nature of the problem that we face in India. The solutions to apparently insurmountable problems are in many cases rather straightforward. The river does not produce any pollution. It is a tributary that carries the filth into the river. If we are serious about cleaning the Yamuna, we need to clean up the tributaries and stop the stormwater drains to flush the untreated sewage into the Yamuna. Three Israeli hostages freed. Palestine receives 369 prisoners in exchange. Zelensky wants armed forces of Europe to take on Russian army, Trump's back hard stance on Gaza. As Trump moves with dizzying speed on his to-do list, there are warning signs. White South Africans come out in support of Trump. Russia claims it has captured another village in Ukraine. Britain's railway celebrates 200 years in Bollywood style with DDLJ musical. More than happy to buy more US gas can buy Russian oil via clean channel. BIT negotiations should be separate from FTAs with eye on national interest. The bilateral investment treaty should be handled separately and the negotiated standalone from the free trade agreements. A specialist with expertise in elements of policy making in such as taxation, Union Finance Minister said on Saturday that before taking international arbitration, enough time should be given to contesting parties to go through available local remedies that is important for the host country. Issues related to BIT are so unique to the sovereign that we think BIT should be negotiated standalone rather than make it as a part of FTA agreement. We think that bilateral investment treaty and its ramifications are so important for the sovereignty of the country. It is important for us to have a standalone BIT. Individual taxpayers claimed higher tax benefits than corporate entities. Did fund managers advise prompt small cap stock route? Income Tax Department begins mapping of Income Tax IT Act tax bill. SEBI revises norms for depositories. The future of travel, emerging trends shaping the way we explore. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.